In order to just help prepare our hearts for the Christmas holiday, we've begun a journey through the first chapter of the Gospel of John, which began with the following words. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And what we saw last week is that when the author John here referred to Jesus as the Word, he was deliberately tapping into the language from the predominant philosophical and religious expectations of his time. And this is what we saw last week. John's simple point was this: Jesus is who you're looking for. That's his point in using this language of the Word. Jesus is who you're looking for. Jesus is the truth you're looking for. Jesus is the ultimate reality you're looking for. Jesus is the life you're looking for, the guidance, the direction, the rescue, the healing, the salvation, the revelation of who God is. They're all Jesus. Jesus is who you're looking for. Jesus is the Word. And so what I want us to do is read this key point together. Jesus is who I'm looking for at the bottom of the screen. Let's read this. Jesus is who I'm looking for. Well, what we're going to see this morning is John continues in the introduction to his gospel account of the life and ministry of Jesus. He continues to draw his language from the popular thinking of his time. And specifically, what we're going to see this morning is that John borrows the language of a battle between light and darkness. And he borrows this language from, again, the musings of the Greek philosophers and also from the language of the expectations of the religious Jewish, doomsdayers, so to speak. There was a community, a pocket, a backdrop of this doomsday culture that was existent, I guess, in the Jewish community. And they, too, had this language of this battle, this cosmic battle between light and darkness. And both groups, as we saw last week, were significant props on the stage, behind the writing of the Gospel of John. And so if we pick up in verses 4 through 9, then, of John chapter 1, you'll hear this language of light battling darkness. So in verse 4 we read, "The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it." And then John goes on to tell a little story about a man that we call John the Baptist. God sent a man, John the Baptist, to tell about the light so that everyone might believe because of John's testimony. And John himself was not the light. He was simply a witness to tell about the light, the one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. That's what John was saying. The true light, the light is coming into the world. Now, again, as we discussed last week, when we read these words today, these opening words of the Gospel of John, it may strike us as being a little bit like, ooh, right? A little bit out there. John, what in the world are you talking about? But the readers of his day would have known exactly what John was talking about. John was talking their language when he was talking about this battle between light and darkness. John's readers would have known that the popular Greek philosophers of the time believed in a world that was something like this. It was basically this dualistic world. Dual meaning like dualistic, like a duel between light and darkness. And so the Greek philosophers believed in this two-tiered world, that up above, the higher level, the upper level, was the realm of light, an invisible, eternal, perfect realm, that represented all that was ultimately ideal, the ultimate world. That was what the Greek philosophers were teaching at the time. And that realm, that upper realm of light, was at odds with the lower realm of darkness in which we, poor sap mortals live and are entrapped. And so for the Greek philosophers, the way to overcome the darkness of this world, the way to salvation, the way to deliverance, and the Greek philosophers actually use that kind of language. The way to salvation was by mastering our bodily passions and doing that just through thinking rationally. Right? That's what guys like Plato were actually teaching. Two-tiered universe, light and darkness. And the way to escape our imprisonment in this world of darkness is to think right and choose well. All right? They believed that human reason can apprehend the true nature of how things really should be, and that just through thinking about it, we could rightly understand how wrong things are in this lower realm of darkness. And then, in thinking rightly, we could, through self-effort and through self-discipline, we could master the darkness within ourselves and achieve the world of light. All right? All right, you understand Greek philosophy now? Yeah. Let me boil Greek philosophy, popular at the time, down into a simple, practical living for you. Think right and try harder. Think right and try harder. That's the way the world works. That's the path of salvation. All right, does that sound familiar? Yeah. Any Greek dualists out there still? Any Platonic Greek dualists? Yeah, a lot of us are still living in that world. That world where we believe there is ultimate good out there somewhere, and there is darkness here, and there's ultimate good, there's ultimate bad, and it's up to us. The way the world works, it's up to us. I just have to work a little harder. I have to think the right thoughts. I have to think, the positive thoughts or whatever, and I have to try harder to do the right thing so that I can be a person of light and escape this world of darkness. It's still a prevalent philosophy today. We just don't call it Greek dualism, Platonic dualism. We just call it the path of salvation or whatever, the way to live life. We believe still, as the Greeks did long ago, that salvation is a human attainment, that we can rightly think and rightly behave ourselves to becoming people of light. And so, knowing now that is the popular, secular philosophical viewpoint of the time of Jesus, now we understand that when John said in verse 9, the one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. That was the message of John the Baptist, describing the true light is actually coming into the world. And of course, that's an announcement that Jesus was coming. And so when John was saying that, his listeners would have clearly understood that John was talking about the same path of salvation that everybody else is talking about, and they would have clearly understood that John was describing a path that was completely contradictory to the path of popular Greek dualism. John was saying, you can't think yourself right enough. You can't behave yourself right enough to escape the darkness of this world and become a person of the realm of light. You can't get to the light. They would have clearly heard John saying, but here is what did happen. The light came to you. The light came to you. I want you to listen very carefully right now, because I want to put a very fine point on this, that if you're listening to me right now, and your plan of salvation is, I will think and behave myself right enough to become a person of light. If that's your plan of salvation, if your salvation plan is to think yourself right enough and behave yourself right enough into heaven, the Gospel of John is still speaking your philosophical language today, and it's telling you your plan will not work. It will not work. You cannot think and behave yourself right enough to make it to the light. You need the light to come to you. You can't get to the light. You need the light to rescue you. You will never be able to rescue yourself. You need the Word to give you life and to give you light. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. And the one who is the true light, which gives light to everyone, came into the world. You need Jesus to rescue you. All right, so much for the Greek philosophers that were popular at the time of Jesus. Not only were the philosophical Greeks then talking about the light and trying to figure out how to get saved from the darkness, but so too were the religious Jews of the time talking about light and darkness and figuring out the path, trying to figure out the path of salvation. And so at the exact same time that the curtain was opening on the New Testament scene of the events that, that occur in the book of John, in the popular Jewish thought of the day, the world was also seen as this battleground between the forces of good and evil, between the forces of light and darkness. And so, for instance, you've all heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Sure we have. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of writings that were discovered in caves in an area of Israel known as Qumran, just outside of Jerusalem, right next to the Dead Sea. It's a very deserted, desert kind of area. And during the time of Jesus' ministry, this was actually an occupied wilderness area. As a matter of fact, dating back to about 150 years prior to the life of Jesus, Jews began to settle out in these caves up in the mountains and, build some villages beneath the mountains as well. And they were going there to escape the darkness of society. We just got to get out of town, was the mentality of those. It's known as the Qumran community or the Essene community, if you run into those words. Those were these pockets of people who just felt like, you know what, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. And we just have to escape. We have to isolate ourselves. Politicians have become completely corrupt. Society is a cesspool of moral decay. Darkness is winning. The religious leaders are all a bunch of hypocrites. Just the wheels are falling out. We've got to, falling off. We've got to get out of town, separate ourselves, bunker down in the middle of nowhere, maybe stockpile some weapons, which they did, and give ourselves to living just strict, pure lives. Sound like anybody you know? Is that why we're laughing? Uh-huh. Yeah, I've had conversations like that this week, all right? The government's corrupt. We just need to move somewhere and build bunkers and buy some handguns, get some ammo. That was the Qumran community. Those were the Essenes. That was exactly what was going on in the background of Jesus' life and ministry. As a matter of fact, this is just an interesting point of historical speculation. Many biblical scholars actually believe that John the Baptist was part of this community, that part of the Essene community, dwelling in these caves, being in the wilderness, calling people, repent. I buy that. It makes sense. But anyway, that's just a footnote of speculation. The Bible never says that. Well, here is something that's also an interesting piece of background information, and it's going to help you to understand something practical for your life, though it might seem a bit historical. It's going to help you understand the language of light versus darkness as the Apostle John is borrowing that language in his gospel. So among the many scrolls that have been discovered in the last 50, 70 years in the Qumran community, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there was discovered a scroll that's now known as the War Scroll. And the War Scroll is a text that describes in gory detail kind of the final ultimate conflict, the Armageddon, so to speak, between, and these are the exact words, between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. And it goes to describe a 40-year war that takes place in 7 battles. And at the end of the 6th battle, it's a draw. It's just a full-on tie, neck and neck, between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. And I want to read you just a portion of the War Scroll, and keep in mind that these writings are circulating out of a community that exists in the backdrop behind Jesus' ministry. All right? This is contemporary. All right, so here's what we read in the War Scroll. I think we have a picture of the War Scroll. Yeah, there we go. A fragment of the War Scroll. The first attack, quote, "The first attack of the sons of light shall be undertaken against the forces of the sons of darkness, the army of Belial, the prince of darkness." Satan, the prince of darkness. So we have Satan, the prince of darkness, leading the forces, the sons of darkness, against the sons of light. And in his time he, Belial, shall go forth with great wrath, and in his anger he shall set out to destroy and eliminate the strength of Israel. And then there shall be a time of salvation for the people of God, and eternal annihilation for all the forces of Belial. And on the day when the Kittim fall, Kittim is the Hebrew word for the Romans, which is significant. And on the day when the Romans fall, there shall be a battle and a horrible carnage, for it is a day appointed by God, for from ancient times is a battle of annihilation for the sons of darkness. So who did the Jews really think were part of satanic forces? Yeah, those stinking Romans who are occupying our promised land. They're part of the devil's presence in Israel. And when this battle happens, there shall be no survivors of all the sons of darkness. And then the sons of righteousness shall shine to all the ends of the world. And then at the time appointed by God, his great excellence shall shine for all times of eternity, for peace and blessing and glory and joy and long life for all the sons of light. All right, so this is the kind of, tabloid literature that was in the checkout stands at the grocery stores at the time of Jesus. And what I want you to see is that the expectations of, the worldview of the religious community at the time of Jesus' ministry, they understood this worldview that the world was something like a chessboard upon which these two cosmic forces of light and darkness were continuing to wage an eternal, neck and neck war. It's a close fight. We're after 6 battles, it's a tie. That was part of the popular thinking of the day. And then there was an expectation that was then gaining traction, and it was being documented in pieces of literature like the Word Scroll, that the War Scroll, that the day was coming when the Prince of Light would come. He would launch a final decisive battle and deal the death blow against the Prince of Darkness and the forces of darkness. Right, do you see that? It's a significant expectation that's just documented in documents like the War Scroll. And this is another interesting piece of information for you. Given that expectation, it's easy for us to understand why the Jewish people missed the Prince of Light when he actually came. Because what were they expecting? That he would defeat those stinking Romans. They were looking for political salvation, and they missed Jesus when he came to bring them spiritual salvation. All right, the salvation they wanted was not the salvation they needed. And that may be still true for us. It may be why some of us are missing Jesus, because what we want Jesus to do is not what we need Jesus to do in our lives. So according to the popular mindset of the religious Jews, if you wanted to be saved, if you wanted to be a son of light, if you wanted to be on the winning team at the great final cosmic battle, this is what you need to do. You needed to move into a cave. You need to separate yourself from the other slobs of society, and you had to strictly then observe all of God's laws. That's what was happening in the Qumran community. And so let me boil that down into practical living for you. This is the plan of salvation. Be really religious and try hard to never do anything wrong, because if you can be really religious and if you can never screw it up, you might just find yourselves attaining to becoming one of the sons of light. You just might actually be on the winning side on the chessboard. But the outcome's hanging in the balance. Does that sound like anybody you know? Anybody living in that world even still? Yeah, a lot of us do. A lot of us do. A lot of us still believe we live in a world where we have to prove which team we're on by being really religious. By trying really hard to do everything that we think God is telling us to do and trying really hard to be perfect. A lot of us, like the Jews did, believe, like the Jews did long ago, that salvation is a human attainment. Just like the Greeks. Only the Greeks didn't really have the God component. The Jews did, but it was the same. It's all human attainment. We can obey ourselves into the light. And so when John said in the opening words of his gospel, the Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. And the light, the Word, Jesus shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. John's listeners would have clearly understood that John was talking about the Prince of Light coming into the world, launching his final decisive battle, annihilating the Prince of Darkness, and ushering in a time when the excellencies of God will shine for all times of eternity, and peace and blessing and glory and joy and long life will come for the sons of light. They would have heard all that. The Prince of Light has come? John's talking about the Prince of Light. And John's listeners would have clearly understood that John was now describing a victorious battle of light that goes down in a completely different way than the supermarket tabloids were predicting it was going to go down. All right? They were expecting the battle to be won in the hard-fought fight of just sheer gut effort, obedience, and religiosity. But John was saying, you know what? You can't fight and obey hard enough to save yourself from the Prince of Darkness. You cannot obey enough the laws of God to prove yourself to be a son of light. You can't obey enough light. You cannot obey enough light into the darkness of your own soul. But here is what did happen, John says. The light came to you. The light came to you. The light obeyed God so that you could have life. The light defeated the darkness. The light defeated the darkness because in your own strength, in a throwdown with the Prince of Darkness, you don't have a snowball's chance. Right? You don't have a snowball's chance. And so again, I want you to listen very carefully right now. If you've been asleep, listen right now. I want to put a very fine point on this. If you're listening right now, and if your plan of salvation is, I can defeat the darkness in my own heart by obeying myself onto the winning team. I can be religious enough to prove that I am a son of light. I can take the Prince of Darkness on in a throwdown. The Gospel of John is still speaking your religious language today, and it's telling you not a snowball's chance. You do not have a snowball's chance. You will never defeat the darkness of sin in your own heart through obedience. You will never be religious enough to extinguish the darkness of sin in your own soul. You need the light to defeat the darkness. You will never obey yourself into the kingdom of light. You need the light to obey for you. You need the light to rescue you. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness. The darkness can never extinguish it. The one who is the true light, he who gives light to everyone, came into the world. You need Jesus to rescue you. That is the only plan of salvation that will work. So says the Bible. You need Jesus to rescue you. Just one last quick point from the Gospel of John. A point that would have been clear to the ears and the minds of his readers. A point that I hope, I pray, will bring some clarity to us in 2013. In verse 5, when John writes this, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. John was very simply saying, the light wins. The light wins. Now, this the original word that's translated extinguish here in the New Living Translation, it has just a lot of different nuances of meaning. And the various English translations, if you compare English translations, they put a lot of different words there because they're trying to capture the various nuances of meaning in the original word. And so you'll see some translations of the darkness can never overcome the light, that can't master it, it can't extinguish, it can't comprehend, it can't overtake, it can't apprehend, it can't even perceive. Those are the kinds of words that translates the original word here. But the point that the Apostle John is trying to make is completely unaffected by the nuances of the particular word, because the point is this: the light wins. The light wins, and the light wins in such a way that the darkness did not even get it. The darkness didn't even get it. The darkness couldn't even do anything about it. The light utterly, absolutely defeated the darkness, and the darkness's only response was an impotent and bewildered, huh? What? What just happened? It couldn't even comprehend it. It couldn't extinguish the light. The darkness had nothing whatsoever. And so this would have been significant, understand this would have been significant to the philosophical Greek dualism of the Greek reader, who believed that the battle against the darkness of this lower world was a lifelong battle of self-effort, a lifelong battle of just thinking the right thoughts and thinking positively and disciplining yourself and putting all this hard work into trying to make yourself a child of the light, a lifelong battle with the darkness. And John says, no, the light won. The light won, and the light actually came to you and defeated the darkness before the darkness even got a shot off. And John's language would have been significant to the cosmic dualism of the religious Jewish reader, who would have believed also that the battle with darkness was this lifelong battle of obedience to God's laws, and a lifelong battle against the powers, the cosmic powers of darkness, and a lifelong battle of trying as hard as you could possibly try to separate yourself from the world and be as perfect as you could possibly be. And hopefully, when the gavel of history drops, you find that you made the cut for the winning team. But again, the Jewish reader would have understood the battle with darkness is a lifelong battle. And the Jewish reader is familiar with the kinds of writings that were written in documents like the War Scroll. There would have been this expectation of a hard-fought, but tenuous battle. And as I said, the War Scroll, the battle was 40 years. And after 6 major engagements, it was a draw. We don't know how this is going to come out. Scores tied between light and darkness. And we have that kind of mentality today. There's good, there's bad, there's yin, there's yang. There's the good side of the force, the dark side of the force, and we need balance in the force, right? That's kind of a popular, and we're just trying to align ourselves with the good side, and hopefully it'll outweigh the bad side, and it's all hanging in the balance. And it's into that mentality that existed then and that same mentality that exists today. The Gospel of John says, no, the light came and the light won, and there was no battle whatsoever. The final battle happened. The prince of darkness was utterly and absolutely defeated before he even had a thought in his brain to reach for his gun. Battle over. The darkness was defeated, and it couldn't extinguish the light. It couldn't even comprehend or perceive or get it. The light shines in the darkness. The darkness can never extinguish it. The light wins, no contest, period. When my son Benjamin was little, we used to play rock, paper, scissors. Well, I introduced a new wrinkle to the game, rock, paper, scissors, atom bomb. Before he really had a chance to understand, well, what is an atom bomb, Dad? It's just like, it blows up everything. And so we'd play, around, and he'd play rock, and I'd play atom bomb. It's like, atom bomb wins, blows up everything. So we'd try again. He'd go scissors. I'd play atom bomb. I win. Atom bomb beats scissors. No contest. He'd try paper. Atom bomb beats paper. And as I remember, he even tried, going through the whole arsenal of weapons he could think of from, various sources, whether it was bazooka or tank, nope, atom bomb, battleship, atom bomb, Jedi fighter, nope, atom bomb wins. Atom bomb beats everything, right? Here's the point. Jesus beats everything. Jesus wins, no contest. Atom bomb wins, no contest. Jesus wins, no contest. Satan, Jesus wins, no contest. Sin in your life, Jesus wins, no contest. Darkness, sickness, death, evil, stinky things that happen in this world, Jesus wins, no contest. The battle is not hanging in the balance. Jesus wins, no contest. And that's the point I want you to walk away with this morning. Jesus wins. So let's say that together. Do I have it on the screen? Jesus wins. Say that again. Jesus wins. You're here this morning. There's some area of darkness that you're battling in your life. Jesus wins. Jesus wins. You've got some sort of area of struggle in your life. It's a struggle with sin. It's something that just feels like it's got a grip on you, and the outcome is hanging in the balance. Here's the truth from the Gospel of John. Jesus wins. The Prince of Light utterly and absolutely defeated the Prince of Darkness. No contest. Maybe you're battling fears in your life. Maybe the fear of death. Jesus wins. Jesus wins. You're trying to figure out, why it is some horrible things have happened in your life. Why it seems that evil has taken the day. And that pain is going to be, the victor on the battlefield of your life. Here's the truth. Jesus wins. No contest. This past Wednesday night, a couple life groups got together here for a Christmas, celebration. And our icebreaker question turned out to be like the whole evening. And we were just going around just sharing stories about things in our lives that at the time seemed like, evil was going to win the day. Pain was going to win the day. It was a horrible thing that each of us were sharing that we went through in that season of life. But now looking back on it with a little bit of perspective, with a couple months or a couple years, there was just testimony after testimony after testimony that, boy, even though it seemed like evil had the day, I now see Jesus won. Jesus won, even in that sucky thing that happened. Oh, Tom, I just said what I told you couldn't say. Even in that unfortunate thing that happened, Jesus wins. Jesus wins. So put your hope in Jesus. Place your salvation in Jesus. Put your life in Jesus. Jesus is the only light that will rescue you from darkness. And this is the guarantee. If you entrust your life to the light, Jesus wins.